Do you think your kid is addicted to their screen? If so, this video is for you. Kids and teens are averaging 23 hours of content per week. That means phone, TV, computer. That's almost 52 days at the end of the year. And it's not really their fault. They've been born into this. We have a comparison of what life was like prior to this, but it's not gonna change. This is here for good, and we have to learn how to navigate this along with our kids as technology continues to develop. Have you gone out to a restaurant and see families at lunch or dinner when they're sitting there like this in front of their screens and nobody's talking? It's crazy. Sometimes you see little babies just sitting there holding a device so that the parents can talk. Part of what I think is going to happen here is our kids are going to be the ones that figure out too much of this is really bad for you because it stimulates the same pleasure centers in your brain as sexual gratification and intoxication. It's the exact same pleasure center for addiction that reacts to electronic addiction. And now it's not just the kids anymore that are electronically addicted. It's adults too. I mean, have you driven out there and seen what it's like? It's a crazier, scarier time for sure, but there's a lot of different ways that we can navigate this to make it better and safer for both us and our families. One of the bigger concerns for me with screens and phones is the fact that our kids learn to use them as emotional pacifiers. Back in the day, 10, 15 years ago, we had so many oppositional, angry, upset kids that had so much energy. They were fighting their parents. They were taking off and running away. They were swearing at the world, and they were really, really angry. We've seen in the past bunch of years a huge decrease in that oppositional behavior, and I think it's because they have phones. So now our kids are learning how to numb out and use it as an emotional pacifier. And so what's gonna happen if you take their phone? They freak. So let's talk about overstimulation. Here's how you know your kid's overstimulated, is if you get them off a device, whether it's a phone or an Xbox or whatever they're on, and you tell them it's time to get off, and they turn and they look at you with this crazy wild-eyed stare like you just took meat from a tiger, that's overstimulation. That's letting you know that it's too much time for them. And so you've got to start backing out of how long they were on, because that overactivation is not good for them or good for you. Here's another concerning fact. Teens are in the middle of identity formation, which makes them super sensitive both to their peers and the influence of their peers in their environments. So when they're talking on their phones with kids that are really negative, your kid has a much higher likelihood of being negative. If they're talking with a kid that hates their dad, your kid has a much higher likelihood of hating their dad. When they're constantly tethered and connected, those influences can come in and have a real profound effect on your kid. Look, I remember when YouTube started, you had something like 13 seconds in between videos. And what happened? They started going, that's too much time. That's too much time to think. Now we have short form content, which neuroscience is saying can be up to 5 times more addictive than alcohol. Would you give your kid alcohol at a very early age or marijuana? We're impacting the same part of the brain. So look, I screw up on this all the time. If there's something I'm really poor at, it's electronics, because it's hard for me to figure out, does my kid really need this for school? Do they really need this for their sport? How much time is really too much? How long should they be on? Who are they talking to? And these are all the things that I know if I'm struggling with as a parent, you are too. Now I realize it's ironic that you're watching a screen, and I'm sitting here talking about how detrimental it can be. But since you're here, let's talk about what you can actually do. Look, I'm gonna start off with a side note here. Stop getting caught up and influenced by what all the other families are doing. No family, no friend is gonna walk in lockstep with you when it comes to parenting. They're always gonna have different rules, especially when it comes to screen time. You have to run your family your way. It's gotta be run solely what's in the best decisions for your family. One of the best things that we can do to navigate this is to start to limit, not prevent, screen time, especially with teenagers. Optimally, they shouldn't have more than 30 to 60 minutes of random scrolling, especially without taking a break. Now, when your kid does take a break, that break needs to be a minimum of 30 to 60 minutes. That's how long it takes for the brain to calm down. When they look at those screens and they get activated, their brain powers up like a helicopter. When you disconnect it and you shut it off, it takes a minimum of 30 minutes for the brain to slow down to get back into that normal rate and pace. This is why I'm not a proponent of screens before school, because for that first 30 minutes that they're in school, it's a lot harder to concentrate, retain information, focus. Also, before bed, they get super activated. So not only is it gonna make it harder for them to sleep, it can also impact the quality of their sleep just from being on screens right before bed. So what do? Typically, I like the kids off of screens an hour, if not at the very least 30 minutes before bed. I'm a huge proponent of what I call electronic etiquette, which is device-free meals. Teaching our kids when they're on a device, if they're being spoken to, they need to stop and pivot and look and pay attention. And as parents, of course, we have to practice what we preach. You can't be a do as I say, not as I do parent. Your kids are gonna see right through that. You've got to be able to put your phone down and have meals, not be distracted, not show that other things are a higher priority to you in your life than your family. There's so much more on this topic that we get into on the podcast. Make sure you check it out. Please like, subscribe, leave me a comment. I really do want to hear from you. And lastly, I want to thank you, because being a parent is hard. There's no manual. We all make a ton of mistakes, and it can often be a thankless job. But the sacrifices that you have made and will continue to make for your kids will provide the structural support for them to get through some of the most challenging and darkest times that they may ever have in their life. Many won't recognize this until they're older, but they do circle back to you with love and gratitude, along with the recognition that they couldn't be who they are nor where they are in their life without you and everything that you challenged them on and fought them on in order to get them ready for life. So thank you for all that you do. Thank you for your time today.